Smite 1 was a defining entry in my gaming career. I started playing the game towards the end of my freshman year in college, and its concept of gods from all different pantheons duking it out in a carefully crafted battlefield just kept me playing. For a kid that mainly played Nintendo games growing up, this was a very big change of pace to what I was used to. Not sucking at this online MOBA was quite the challenge for me. Smite has a steep learning curve, and unfortunately, many players will never learn the ins and outs of the game due to losing game after game, not knowing why they suck. Oh, and don't worry, I had my fair share of just straight feeding in most of my games starting out. This difficulty curve has not changed in the newest installment of the Smite franchise. After 12 years of Smite 1, Hi-Rez Studios released Smite 2 Beta, which is serving as the current battleground for the gods. There were a couple flounders starting off, the alpha was actually unplayable, there was little game balance to be had, and there were simply missed features of Smite 1 that just had to be in the game at launch. Luckily, after many patches, the game is now in a very good state. Honestly, I would say that it is even better than its predecessor. However, the player base for the game is stagnant, and it seems like the new players that are coming in seem to be very lost. And I mean, they're straight up terrible. Those players were the purpose of this video, and I want to teach you the do's and don'ts of Smite 2. I know there is not a ton of Smite 2 content right now, so I thought it would be fun to make some tips that really help take your game to the next level, the non-feeding level to be precise. Whether you are new, current, or an old player, I have a couple of pointers that everyone, unless you're a pro, would enjoy. So pull up a chair, stay right where you are watching the Average Joe Show, and this is the do's and don'ts of Smite 2. Do number 1, finding your role. Picking a role is crucial for any MOBA game, and Smite 2 is no different. There are 5 roles total: carry, ADC, mid, jungle, support, and solo. These roles are used to categorize the types of gods you are playing, and the area of the map you will be playing on for the game's main mode, Conquest. All the roles play styles that are different from each other. Mids are ability AoE based, jungles are divers, supports are the big boy tanks, and solos are a mix of damage and defense. That last sentence was a very condensed version of the roles that you're going to be playing, but it highlights exactly what's going to happen in each match. Since the play styles are different, it might take you testing out a couple of different roles to figure out what types of gods you prefer playing and what role is your favorite. My favorite role is, of course, support. I love running straight at enemies, simply not dying, dancing around a team fight with no health and snagging a couple of assists, and saving a teammate is what I enjoy most in the game. I have the carry and jungle roles as my backup roles when queuing in games. Since support plays both in the jungle and dual lane, I understand what I am supposed to be doing in those roles as well, even though I don't play those gods as much. Picking a role is important because it gives you direction to get better, versus playing random roles each game. You do not play this game as a perfect fill player. You will just be underperforming in most games that you end up playing. Your team will most likely call you out on it as well. Once you master a role, then find a secondary role and repeat the process. Find the role that fits you best. Own that role. Watch guides, watch pro gameplay, and you will start seeing that you are slowly getting better. Don't number 1, positioning. Want to know why you're not winning games? Well, it's probably because your positioning just plain out sucks. A big part of winning games in Smite is having yourself positioned correctly. In other words, knowing when you have the advantage or disadvantage based off of your location on the map. Positioning is the most important piece of knowledge that I can share with you. Learning it comes from repetition and watching other people's gameplay. I'm going to walk you through a brief example with my friends who are known as the Fighting Gumpies. Now pay attention to my friend Matt, but for this video, we're going to call him 2 Rats 2 Rats. In this scenario, we are in a conquest match early game. As you can see, I am playing support with my carry and we're playing about halfway up the lane. We had placed a ward in the jungle, so we noticed that the enemy jungler was nearby. We didn't want to get ganked, so we backed up. We also said, be careful middle in the game chat. 2 Rats 2 Rats decided to push up in middle lane to do a little tower damage. I'm going to pause the video and I will let you guys ask yourselves, do you think 2 Rats 2 Rats is in the correct position with this information? Silly 2 rats, you got all blown up because your positioning on the map made you vulnerable. I can't go over every single scenario because there's just way too many, but common sense will prevail in this aspect. If you want me to break down some positioning notes, here are a couple. If you aren't tanky, play behind the tanks. If you don't know where the jungler is, play with caution or buy wards. If it is time to be aggressive as a carry, play back in a team fight and avoid all the abilities going off. Then, after the abilities are done, go in and snag your kills. Stuff like this takes the most time to understand, but once you get it, your game improves immensely. Do number 2, playing multiple gods. Maining a god is not as important as maining a role. This is because Smite is constantly changing gods in every new update. Zeus might be OP one patch, then unplayable the next. Sometimes your god might get an entire rework that changes their kit entirely. If you play on and off, this can definitely bring more challenge to your games. This is why I do not recommend spending all your time into one god. Instead, when you pick a role, start by unlocking and playing every god in that role. While you won't jive with every god, it will give you a deeper understanding of the role you are trying to fulfill. Since every god is unique in abilities and passives, it gives the game replayability, which is good for the game. At the same time, the more gods you learn the ins and outs of, the easier time you will have playing against them. For instance, once I learned how to play Neve, I figured out that her only escape is her third ability, which is a backflip. If she is dived after using that ability, she is just cooked. As a support player that focuses on CC and stunning, I know not to even bother using my abilities until I see the opposing Neve use a backflip. I end up just walking straight past her, the gap between us is much shorter, and I can go in for the kill. That's just a quick example, but it just shows how simple god knowledge and awareness can go in winning a fight, or even a match. Work your way through multiple gods. You don't have to be fantastic at each one, and you will be able to play against your opponents while knowing the limitations of what they are using. Don't number 2, feeding. No, I'm not just talking about feeding your cats. I'm talking about dying. I'm talking about you guys out there that just can't help but die. I swear Smite 2 has way more players that just don't know how to survive. This is coming from a support player who needs his damage dealers to do something to win the game. When we say someone is feeding, it means they are dying constantly. Generally, feeding happens earlier on in the game when health and defense are lower. If you're constantly getting destroyed, you will not only be losing lane and XP, you are giving the other team levels, making comebacks all more difficult to do. This is the snowball effect that happens in most MOBAs. The only way to stop it is simple. Stop dying. It is not as simple as one may think, but a few ways to stop feeding are as follows. Playing proper gods in the proper roles, positioning in roles well, and returning to base when your HP is low. That last one kills me as a support, because when I work hard to save one of your guys' butts, and you don't back and then go in and die, it makes me feel sad. If you end up feeding every game, it means you do not understand the game's mechanics, and it is time to learn. Do number 3, god aspects. God aspects are one of the biggest changes to Smite 2. An aspect is essentially a toggle which can be turned on and off before the start of the match. The changes range from having different ability effects, passives, swapping stats, or even just changing the basic attack of gods. Simply, an aspect can turn a carry into a jungle, or a solo into a support, or a support into a mage. There are tons of potential in these aspects. This gives fans who have been playing the same kit for 10 years to have a new kit to try out. It might seem a bit complicated, but that's why it's just an option, and not mandatory. One of my favorite aspects has to be the Cerberus aspect. Instead of having lifesteal from eating souls pulled from his jump, and not having a directional in his ultimate, when he eats a soul, he gains a permanent stack for his second ability, which is a cone breath. This ability then gains a tick for every 3 stacks, so basically the more stacks you have, the longer the ability lasts. This gets out of hand pretty quickly if the players don't know about it, and I've had 75 stacks in a single game, and I loved every second of it. Aspects are like having a new god added to the game, and if you're waiting for your Smite 1 god to be pulled over, I would say try out these aspects. It is almost like playing a brand new god, and you never know, you might actually like it a lot more than what was in Smite 1. Don't number 3. The AFKs. The don'ts are all following a theme. If you don't position yourself well, that leads to feeding. And if you feed, it leads to losing. And losing leads to raging. Raging in match leads most people to leave mid-match. This has always been a problem in the game, but I feel like it happens all the time in Smite 2. I queued in 7 conquest matches in a row in casuals, and in every single match, someone just simply went AFK. Guys, this is not making the game better, and you're not getting better at all just by leaving. It sucks that an average worker like myself, who is just looking for a little enjoyment in a video game, can't play the game how it's supposed to be played. I know I could play ranked, but I am just looking to distress, not get all hyped up. There is a report button for players like these. After the match is over, ban them, I say. And if you are one of these ragers, you just gotta get good, scrub lords. Do number 4. The God Pass. The God Pass is a paid version of Smite 2. Smite 1 and Smite 2 will always be free to play for anyone. And I know players that have never actually sunk a single penny into this game. If that is how you roll, good for you. However, the God Pass has to be one of the best values in the current gaming market. For just $30 US, you get the basic pass, which unlocks every god in the game. Not only does this include all gods, but it includes future gods as well. You will be able to play the new gods as soon as they come out, which is fun since every new god is generally broken on release. The reason why the deal is just so good is because of the length of the game. If the original game went on for 10 years, if you consistently played and had hundreds of hours into the game, I would say that's a $30 well spent. Even if you only play the game on and off, it's also most likely worth your money. If you aren't about spending money, you get a god token every level, so unlocking gods to play isn't too hard to do. Don't number 4. Item building. Item building is another skill you have to add to the list when you're learning Smite. Items boost your overall stats and are all unique. Some might have a passive once fully built, others grant you an active item that can be used in game. Each role has their own unique builds, and sometimes items are god dependent. This is a lot to take into consideration, especially when you're starting the game. This is one of the first things that overwhelms players since you have to build the items at the start of every single match. Many new players probably just choose an auto build, which at best gives you a decent build to play the game with. This is a crutch, but once you feel more comfortable navigating the scary item menu, you should never use the auto build ever again. This is because there are optimal times to buy certain items, as well as builds to counter a particular opposing god. A good example of this would be when you're going up against an Aphrodite support. Aphrodite's entire hit is getting around healing herself and other gods around her. Immediately, your entire team should collectively say to themselves, I have to build at least one anti-heal item. This is going to reduce her overall healing, making her and her teammates easier to kill. I do feel like the item building takes the most time to learn, so that's why it's towards the end of the video. My don't part of this is just don't build crap. That's my main point. The source I use to look up proper builds is called Smite Source. You simply pull up your god and find an optimal build for them in seconds. You can also use the in-game item builder resource, but if you don't know how to build, it's kind of pointless. Once you pick a build, use it over and over and start reading the text of the item. There is a reason why the item is good. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of reading, a little bit of play testing to understand why. But starting out, put yourself in the best spot possible and just use someone else's build. Don't go off of a thought in your head that might not just work if you don't know what the item means. Do number 5, Playing Joust. Now, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway. Play Joust. If you are new to Smite and have just been playing Arena, I'm here to tell you that is not an accurate representation of the rest of the game. You might be able to go 24-12 in an Arena match, but then go 0-14-3 in a Conquest match. This is most likely because you aren't used to laning, combat, or objective combat. When I first started playing the game, I played a lot of Joust. The matches last 15 to 20 minutes, and it is a 3v3 single lane showdown. This mode will teach you the mechanics of how lanes work, which is very important when you're playing Conquest since Conquest has 3 lanes. You also can get tons of repetition in since matches aren't long. This means you can practice newer gods more and play against more gods without going into a Conquest game where you probably will get farmed. Joust XP is scaled more in line with Conquest, so you experience the game in 3 stages: early, mid, and late. This doesn't happen in Arena, where you reach level 5 in under 2 2 minutes and hit level 20 super quickly. Joust is the perfect place to try out new things and get a better understanding of the game's main mode. I recommend grinding out some of these matches before you make the jump into the conquest grind. So there you have it, guys. Those are my do's and don'ts of Smite 2. Hopefully these tips will help you out in your own Smite grind. If you like what I do here, please hit the subscribe button. I make videos on the do's and don'ts of video games, gaming discussions, collecting, the whole 9 yards. It's just a swell time. I just want to say thank you to everyone who have been joining the channel recently. You guys rock. On your way out, hit that like button and drop a comment on your own do's and don'ts of Smite 2. And make sure you have a great one wherever you are, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.